Hi, how are you guys? Welcome. My name is Ana Stephanie Munoz. Thank you for joining our live. It will last around 30 to 45 minutes, and we will be talking about a very interesting and controversial topic called stress coming out of the closet. Our special guest is a coming out coach, wife, and mother. If you want to find out more about our upcoming lives, I will post a link in the chat box so you can join. Most of my lives are in Spanish. However, there's some that we do in English. All the, emails and stuff, we have them in Spanish. However, if you're interested, you're always welcome to join. My company, Excel tu Potencial or Exceed Your Potential, has the purpose of helping companies and their employees to refocus stress and anxiety to increase productivity, improve relationships, and results. And as a transformational coach, I help people to free themselves of their mental jail that they have built throughout their lives with their different experiences in order to find the fulfillment, balance, and happiness they're looking for. So, let me introduce you today to our special guest. Hey, she is Nancy Shadlock. Nancy is the CEO and founder of Center Life Coaching and the host of the Coming Out Chronicles podcast. When Nancy finally discovered that she didn't have to divorce her spirituality to embrace her sexuality, she started creating the life she's always dreamed of. She's now married to an amazing woman named Alaina. They have two sweet babies and a beautiful life together in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Now she spends her days helping others break out of the closet of all kinds, embrace who they are, and stand in their own truth. Nancy, it's so good to have you here today. Would you like to share some words of welcome words to our audience today, please?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And I'm excited to share, along those lines that you deal with so much of stress and ways to reduce stress. And for me, one of the biggest ways is living into our authentic selves. And I was just on a call with a client who, is talking about how much anxiety she had even 3 or 6 months ago before, when she was so closeted, and all these ways that I've helped her be able to come out of the closet, and her anxiety is starting to fall back because she's living her truth.
Wow, that's so amazing. And you know what? There's something that I believe it happens to all of us as human beings. And it doesn't matter if we are in the closet, but of our, internal, how we really are, this alignment with our soul. And we tend to, to fulfill all the expectations from family, society, and everything. And at the end, we don't live in our true self. And that's in general, I believe. But besides that, all these expectations, the fact that we haven't kind of like, I don't know if that's the word you use, like make peace with our sexuality, it's even worse. I mean, because it's something that it will change all your life, the way you focus it, like the way you decide to date, the way you decide to build a family. It's different,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And it may change all through our lives too, right? The kinds of
Exactly.
person that we're attracted to. And when
Exactly.
like our society has had us box in everything, and you have to choose, you have to be one or the other or this or that. And it's like, I think it actually is probably more fluid than most of us would admit. And it's more about a
Yeah.
connection of energy and who you're attracted to.
Exactly. I truly believe that, and when I talk with friends that they don't relate to the fact of, if they're women liking men or if they're men liking women, what they say is, I get in love with the soul, not
Mm-hmm.
with the outside. It's,
Yeah.
the essence of the person. And I think that's, we're in the way of really understanding how deep this is, because I think it's a very deep topic and very controversial.
Mm-hmm. What makes it controversial for you?
Well, For me, it's the society I live in. We're in Latin America. So here, there's some countries that are more open with LGTB than others. However, in Guatemala especially, we're still not there. I
Mhm.
remember I used to work for ExxonMobil, and this was, I think, 2009. I was in HR, and they were telling us about a management of change process that they did in Canada because this employee was changing sex. So she was, let's say, Joanne, and on Friday, and on Monday, it was going to be John.
Mm.
So they did all this management of change process to prepare, obviously, the psychological part, the whole thing that the person did, because she changes her sex. So it was her whole process, and then how to help her or him in the process inside the company so it wouldn't be a shock for him and for the rest of the company, and to embrace the fact that he was still part of the company, but it was going to be different, and he was going to be treated as he deserved with respect and everything. But it was like you're used to for several years to call him Joanne and refer him to her, and to change that, it's as well difficult because you're used to. It's like you have a friend and you always call your friend their name, and from one day to the next to change a name, it's like it doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
Yet alone the fact that it you're used to see her and then you're going to change to see him. But I found it so interesting how the company and how the people embrace this change. And we were discussing, this was, not 2009. In Guatemala today, I don't think we're still ready to do that management of change.
Mm. How was it received within your company then?
Then, well, people were really shocked in Guatemala. In Canada, it was really good, and it was,
Mm.
it was very interesting experience for everyone. And obviously, there were mistakes from people that you were Joanne and it was John, and sorry, but it
Mhm.
was very understandable. There was nothing wrong, and people took it like very seriously and where everyone was helpful throughout the process. So it was really, I think it was a really good management of change process. But here, people were shocked about the story. They were like, "What? No, we're not ready. We're still not ready to do that." And I believe today, people are still not ready. We're getting there, and it's becoming more accepted, but it's taking a while. And it's a very machista, place. So
Mhm.
it's complicated.
Is it also religion that plays into the not ready?
That's true. That's another thing. Yeah, we are mainly Catholic or Christian. So we have evangelists, we have Catholics, and yes,
Mhm.
for people that are at the extreme, it's like Satan and all that thing. So yeah, it's complicated that as well. And there's a lot of homophobic people, so that doesn't help either.
Mhm.
Besides the fact of religion, besides the fact it's like, unfortunately, they don't tolerate that, and I don't,
They preach love, but then don't fully love or accept.
exactly.
Mhm.
So
I get that. Like I grew up very Christian. My parents were missionaries in Africa. So we were very much part of that evangelical land of sharing the good news with people and yet making them change to be like us. And like I'm really
exactly.
facing into that lately of the colonization that happened in sharing this good news with the world, but it was like the North American news or
Yeah,
something.
and not congruent, but because it was like this part, but not this other part. It wasn't like
Hmm.
that. I believe now we're moving to more congruency. Like it's more walking the talk. I mean, if
Hmm.
you don't walk the talk, then it's. I think before people would tolerate that you don't walk the talk, but I think people are tolerating that less and less.
Hmm.
So if you're saying you love the people, but let's say you're homophobic, that's not true. You love the people, because loving the people is loving everyone without, it doesn't matter race, color, religion, sex, it doesn't matter. We love everyone.
Yeah.
And not being congruent now, I think, and especially after COVID started, people are becoming more aware of, and they're expecting, or they're demanding for everybody to be more congruent with what they think, say, and do.
Hmm.
I don't know if you noticed that.
I do think so. Yeah. And like they're calling companies to account of like, how is this company doing good in the world? I'm going to support the companies that are doing that. So I think you're right. I I've had to do a lot of that wrestling within the church, and like, how can I, become congruent within myself of, this is what I was taught forever, that this is wrong to be gay and in the church. And it's been really incredible, the readings that I've been doing, the studying. And there's going to be a documentary coming out soon that you might find really interesting, called 1946. And 1946 is the first year that the word homosexual appeared in the Bible.
Oh,
And
really?
it's
That's very
crazy
interesting.
that, like, until then it was, like a pedophile or a sex offender. Like, it was sexual acts that were degrading of another person. And it's like, yeah, those should not be allowed. But somehow it got shifted, and now we've been mistranslating it for all these years, causing a lot of hurt, a lot of harm in so many people's lives. And like the suicide rates and things in the LGBT community are really huge. And a lot of that, sadly, is because of the Bible and
Yeah.
the way that Christians have used that over the years. And like, if you look at the Bible from years ago, slavery was, people were reading that in the Bible like it was okay. And
Exactly.
like, we've misinterpreted things a few times over the years.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
so I think it's now time for this wake up call in this of, actually, I think we need to relook at this. And I would go so far as to say that people in the LGBT community, particularly trans people or non-binary people, embody the divine for us. And if we're
Completely.
open to looking and seeing, like, it's a gift to us.
Yeah, it is. It is, because they're embracing both the femininity and the masculinity in one. Yeah, completely agree. Then, I'm thinking, now that you're saying this, there's one like old book in the Indian beliefs that's called, I don't know if you've heard of it, Mahabharata.
Hmm.
And what the Indians say is that if it's not in the Mahabharata, it doesn't exist.
Hmm.
It's like, and apparently, years ago, they had this TV show that every Sunday people would watch, like a chapter of it, but it's like a huge, like it has like a 5,000 years old book and everything. And there it talks about homosexuality, about transsexuality, it talks about everything. So people would say, no, that didn't exist. Bullshit. It has existed forever.
Hmm.
But people have not recognized it. I have been afraid or have ignorance. I mean, I think it's a mixture of a lot of things, that they wanted to control society. And since you have been very indoctrinated with religion and stuff, how religion tried to control us in the way they wanted us to think and to act. And I think that's one of the things that they try to limit us, like the sexuality needs to be like this, you know
Yeah.
and it's not that either.
Yeah. I've been playing with that so much lately that there's no rules. Like,
There's no
we always are trying
exactly.
to look for this authority figure that can tell us what we need to do in our life, or what the right thing is. And it's like, there's no rules. We get to just play and figure it out and see. And
You think, what I think, it's the only rule is to be what I call ecological, and it's to do no harm to yourself or others. If you're not harming anyone but in yourself, the planet, then it's okay. And I wanna ask the audience, what do you think of what we're talking today? We're talking about the stress of coming out of the closet, and I want to ask you guys if, well, there are many things I want to ask you, but the first is, and this is a topic that we're going to start talking with Nancy about, but and it doesn't matter if you are LGTB or not, or whatever, it doesn't matter. But are you currently speaking and living your truth? This is the first question I have to the audience, because it doesn't matter if we're gay or not. But unfortunately, what we were talking initially, that what the society or our families expect from us, sometimes and many times we're not living our truth until something bad is happening, and then we decide to start living our truth or speaking our truth. And I want to ask you, Nancy, if you can share us, what does that mean, speaking your truth? I mean, in your experience and what you have encountered with your clients.
I would say speaking your truth is like listening in deeply to ourselves, and particularly if you know anything about human design, which I'm sure you do.
Yes.
um, Depending on your
Manifester.
okay, so depending
Ever
on your type,
manifested.
I'm a generator. I need to listen to my gut. Where do you
Yes.
need to listen to?
My intuition.
Mm.
Mhm.
And so that's living from our truth, like when we can get clear on what part of our body speaks to us, when we can notice the signs when we're not listening to it, and the ways that we're like trying to push something to happen that isn't aligned for us, then we can start to see some of those same patterns popping up, and then realize like we're not living from our truth. And so, that can mean for my clients different things, like one cut her hair after she came out. I cut my hair after I came out. One changed their name. Some are changing jobs. Like all these different things that, oh, this isn't actually aligned for me. When I peel back this layer
Mhm.
and this veneer of who I've been for so many years, and look at this new layer of truth. And I think there's always more layers, but
Oh yeah,
the
there's
truth
always.
of what I know myself to be now,
Mhm.
that like how can I live from that authentic place?
Yeah, no, and we change with time. So, and I always tell to my clients, where you are right now or what you're thinking today, it's completely different of what you have thought a year ago or what you would have done a year ago, because we continuously change. I mean, every day we're somebody new, actually, that the chance to start over, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it could be, a life just about speaking your truth, because it has many phases and it's a long process that sometimes takes a lifetime, and sometimes after a lifetime, we're still not speaking our truth, you know?
Yeah, and sometimes we're speaking our truth, and then we get a revelation about something truer about us, and then sometimes we have to go back on what we were speaking about and recognize like this is more true about me. And in my podcast, I like to ask people this question: what's your next coming out chapter? And believing that if we're growing and changing, there's always going to be a new layer that we're uncovering, and there's
Mm-hmm.
going to be a new coming out with that, because every time we notice
Sure.
more truth about who we are, it's a kind of coming out, because we have to share this with the world that is used to calling us Joanne, and they're used to us being a certain way, and now we have to come out and be like, no, actually this is more true of me. And sometimes people are uncomfortable with it and not used to it, but to
Exactly.
be able to stand in your truth and be like, no, this is who I am.
Exactly. It's a process. And we have a question. It's a mixture question, a Spanglish question. Ileana, thank you so much for watching. Can you live your truth in society like ours? It's tough.
Mm.
Yeah. And if you want to share a bit about how the process has been in Canada, and I will share a bit about how the process has been here in Latin America, in Guatemala especially.
Yeah. Well, for me, like, I think probably the biggest way I can identify with your culture is that I was so in the Christian culture. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, when I came out, my parents told me that my dad told me I was ruining his life, and my mom was, embarrassed and hurt and felt like she had to, in some ways it feels like, I think they felt like they had to go into the closet and
Exactly.
not tell people in their world, because you're not a good parent if you can't pray the gay away for your child. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was really hard for a while, and it almost made me want to like curl up and go back into the closet, because I don't want to hurt
Of
people in my
course.
life.
Of course.
But to persist and to keep moving forward, to find community that does accept me and support me as I am, and then to have see change and see the ways that my parents have come around. Like, they have opened themselves up and realized, like, oh, this world we were in was a very small box, and you've expanded our box to see more, and to see the ways that they love my kids now. And like, if you're in a really hard situation right now, it's not the end of the situation. That's the biggest thing I can tell you right now, is like, keep going. The end is beautiful. If it still feels not beautiful, you're not in the end yet. So keep going. It's going to get
I
better.
love that. I love that tip. That recommendation is great. I remember one of my friends from high school, when we graduated, he went to the States and he came out of the closet there. But unfortunately, when he did, we were in our 20s. He wasn't accepted by his dad, and his dad stopped talking to him for like 10 years.
Mm.
And some years ago, I mean, I'm 43, so some years ago, he came back to Guate and he started going out with this guy, and they've been together for a while already. And some years back, he posted a picture on Facebook saying having lunch, his partner and his father together, three of them, and
Mm.
saying, I would have never imagined having this amazing lunch with my father and laughing and having a great time after he stopped talking to me for 10 years when I came out of the closet. So, and tears run out of my eyes because I studied with him my whole life, practically 12 years, because here in
Mm-hmm.
Guatemala, from kindergarten to 12th grade, you're together. So I knew
Wow.
my father, and I knew how a great person he was. And I could imagine how difficult it was for him to accept the whole situation. But as well, for my friend, I knew he didn't want to come out of the closet in Guate because that was the initial not acceptance of his truth. And so he didn't want to come back because he was like, if my family is not accepting me, I'm not ready for society to not accept me as I am. And I don't have the support from my family, so I don't want to come out of the closet. And I completely understand a lot of people that they don't want to come out of the closet because for them, the most important people to support them is their families. And if they don't, then they feel really unsafe, unsecure, everything about coming out of the closet. What has been your experience with that?
Yeah, I think it really takes a level of safety, for sure. Like, you need to know that you're not going to be annihilated if you come out. And I think it feels like that when you're contemplating it. Like, am I going to lose all my friends and family? Am I going to be alone, cold under a bridge somewhere if I do this? But
Yeah.
to wait till you have a safety of, there are some people in my life that support me, that will be there for me, even if all of my family disown me. And I know for myself, I needed to wait till I had that kind of safety. I had enough people,
Mm-hmm.
particularly in the church, that could hold both of those tensions of being a Christian and being gay, and that I wouldn't be pulled away from that, because like, my spirituality was really important for me.
Yeah.
And so I needed to know that there was some safety in that.
Yeah. No, and that it was okay. I think it's, that the acceptance part and the safety part. And with that, you feel secure because the first thing you feel is like Is it really truth? Like all the questions that I can imagine that one makes when having all this internal dialogue about who you really are and what you're really feeling about things, life, people, whatever. It's you have a lot of I don't know, you're unsure about things. Didn't it happen like at the beginning when you start
Mm-hmm.
like questioning yourself, like is this what I want? Is this what I prefer? Is this what I like? And when
Yeah.
Mhm.
It takes an internal self-acceptance for sure.
Yeah,
Like it's one thing to have external people accepting you, but to be able to work through to that place of, okay, I can accept myself, and that's hard to just do on your own.
it is.
I help my people with that a lot, where I want them to be in a place where they fully accept and celebrate who they are, so that they can show up in their world in a different way. Because like it's one thing to be like, I'm gay, but like I hope it's okay with you, or like that energy, as opposed to I'm gay. I've wrestled with it. I've come to peace with it in myself, and I love you, so I wanted to share that with you. And like that's a very different energy
Completely.
than the first,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that insecurity about, because it feels like you're not really sure what's going on. And it can, I mean, I think it's part of the phases that you go through.
Hmm.
There's one phase of like, is it really me? What's like, you're still getting to know yourself.
Yeah.
But I found that some people last very long time there in that unsafe, unsecure place. And I think that's not healthy, isn't it? It's like you start
Hmm.
getting sick and the
Oh yeah,
stress is way too high, right?
totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I have a friend that he hasn't come out of the closet and he still believes that we don't know. So it's even worse because if he would come to me and tell me, I will be so happy for him because
Hmm.
I know what is happening is he's not accepting himself.
Right.
And he doesn't, or he might be thinking that if he tells me, I might not accept him or something. And and for me, it takes a lot of courage to come and accept yourself in general, not only, being gay but in general, like this is who I am and I accept myself. I accept my light and my dark,
Hmm.
my dark and yeah, my light and my shadow, and this is who I am. And I'm embracing me for who I am.
And once you do, then you realize you have so much to offer and to share with the world. And that's
Yes,
the other thing that I love, is like helping people come to a place of self-acceptance that's so deep that they realize like, oh, I have gifts, I have magic to share with the world, and then step into using that so that the whole world can be enriched. And like
exactly.
that's so different than being in this place of, I'm just going to hide myself, I'm not accepted for who I am. And like it's such a waste of potential when they're each of us have so many things to offer the world. And once we get to know that and have that self-acceptance, it's like it comes alive, becomes
Mhm.
bright and
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, it's like the sun comes up, after the rain or the rainbow.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I don't know. It's crazy. And I want to ask our audience here if what do you think, what has been the biggest struggle speaking your truth? And I'm talking in general because I know some people are not going to write if they're, just came out of the closet or coming out of the closet, they might not write about it, and it's okay. I don't want you to share things that you're not ready to share, but in general, like not speaking your truth, it can be in your work, it can be with your family about other stuff, or it can be about your dream job, and you're not doing it because maybe people think you're not going to make money out of it, or you have to quit a job that gives you financial safety, security. I don't know, but what has been your biggest challenge? And while the audience tells us about this, um, tell me, Nancy, to for being authentic, what do you need to come out of the closet? What would you recommend our audience to start thinking about and to start doing so they get ready? Because I know it's a process and sometimes it can be long, but what in your experience has been, the steps you can't avoid and the steps you have to face to
Mm.
be able to come out of the closet being your authentic self and not being afraid and not being scared and not being unsecure, insecure is the word, sorry.
Mhm. Yeah, I think the first step is just recognizing the incongruences in your life, and those show up through feedback. And I think of feedback as, like, imagine you're at a wedding, someone plugs a guitar amp in close to the microphone, and there's this like really terrible sound. And that might come up as something in your life where someone tells you something, or you're late for something, or like some circumstance happens, and is this feedback for us to help us like pay attention and be like, oh, something is off here, something is not ringing true. Okay, then we start to look in it, and that's where it's like you have a choice then of, am I going to surrender to looking at this, or am I just going to ignore it? And the sad thing is if you ignore it, it's just going to go around to the back door and knock there and like get louder and
Yes.
louder, this
Yes.
feedback. And so then the next step would be committing to it, like surrendering and committing to a transformation in your life, and being open to, okay, I'm going to face into this, and even though I don't know what the outcome is going to be, and be able to be open to whatever it's going to bring, and whatever coming out that is for you. And then once we commit and surrender, then we can start to see like these new gifts coming into our lives, and this new expansion of who we are, and then start to share it. And like in the end, we get to a place where we're grateful that we went through that whole journey, but sometimes it's a little bit messy and scary in the middle.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm thinking about my friends that have come out of the closet, and I've been there for them in the process. And it's amazing what you say. When they have surrendered, like how things evolve, it's amazing, and how things change. And even and talking with them about it, like people that you think would be there for you are not, and people that you didn't even think they were going to support you, they're there for you.
Yeah,
So at the
that
end, you
can be
have the
really,
right support.
yeah, that can be really surprising.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of another step in the transformation, is speaking your truth out loud to someone who's safe. And when we can speak it to someone who's safe and have it validated, of like, yeah, that is fair. Like, I see you, I hear you, and not like run away or tell you you're wrong or those kinds of things. That's when like things really start to open up, and you can step into this new way of being in the world.
Yeah, that's true. And it's amazing. I remember a friend that she was she used to date guys, and then she started liking women, and there was a phase in her process that she wasn't sure if she was bi.
Hmm.
And I remember having the conversation with her, like, you don't think about it. I mean, just let things evolve, and with time you will see if you're bi, if you're gay, or if you're straight. It doesn't matter. You don't have to take a decision right now, especially if you're confused. Just let it be. And then, after some time, probably a couple of years, she came to me and she's like, I'm gay. I How I feel with a woman has nothing to do with how I felt with a guy.
Hmm.
No, it's not the same. I'm like, You have your answer. It took a while, but it didn't matter because you weren't putting pressure on yourself. If you put pressure, you might take the wrong decision.
Yeah.
So,
And like how awesome that she had you to speak that to, and that you
yeah,
heard her, that you received her, you didn't tell her she was wrong, or no, you need to only believe or think this. Like, you held safe space for her, and that's so
yeah,
important for people to have.
yeah, that safe container too. Yeah, because I could understand how confused she was when she had this experience. I have another friend that she was married and had children with a guy, and then she came out of the closet, and as well, her process was like, is it really me, or am I really gay? Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
complicated because and you have all the religions, as well, beliefs, and then you get more confused, I think. So it's a process
Yeah.
until you unconfuse yourself.
Yeah.
I have a question here. Hold on. I have a friend who's gay, but mentally he suffers a lot because he thinks that his family will see him wrong. Because in his family religion, it means that it is wrong. But as his friend, I tell him that the best religion is to be a good person, and my friend is, and that's the most important thing. What do you think, Nancy, about my words that I can give to my friend?
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way to support him. Um, I think it's important to validate that he wants to have religion. It sounds like it. He wants to have some kind of spirituality in his life, and so encouraging him to find ways of having that connection to the divine that might be a little bit outside of the rules of what you know Christianity, Catholicism say. But like for myself, I've found that my queerness of coming out has expanded my box of spirituality so big that I connect with the divine in all kinds of ways. Like in some ways, maybe some Buddhist practices or um, ancient Chinese wisdom, and like all these different places where I notice the divine showing up, and it's letting go of the legalism and the rules of religion, and being able to recognize, yes, we're all spiritual beings, and some of these religions are so narrow that they don't allow us to live our authentic self. But that's not the divine. That's not the divine in enforcing that. And so being able to encourage your friend to find the ways that he can still connect to the divine in all of this.
I love that answer. Thanks so much, Nancy. I was thinking, I have another friend. And it's interesting because in Guatemala and in some countries in Latin America, it's already legal to get married, you know, but here still is not. And he wanted to get married to his partner. So he was like, how can we do it when here in Guatemala it's not legal? So what they did, and I found it very interesting, is they created a company, kind of like, it's not an LLC, but let's say it's something like that. So here's like they had their stocks in the company and 50-50, right? So it was like a company. The merge was a company. So what he was saying is like, and actually he had this awful robbery when he got shot, and he was in the hospital for like a month, but they were already married, like this contract, this company they had. What he was saying, and this was prior the robbery. He's like, if something happens to me and I'm in the hospital or he's in the hospital, we cannot take decisions upon the other because we're not legally married.
Hmm.
And what could be a way that we have legal right to our partners
Wow.
in a country? So I thought, for me, it was mind blowing the way they thought
Yeah.
about it,
That's so creative.
Yeah. So what they did is created a company, and it was like, if all these things happen to me, he is the one that takes decisions for me. And if these things happen to him, I'm the one taking decisions for him.
Mm.
And some time later, he had this thing going on, and his partner could be at the hospital, because that's the other thing. They don't allow people that are not family, right?
Mm-hmm.
So legally, he's like, if something happens to him, legally, I'm the one that has to be next to his bed, and I can decide, and this is my contract with him, and this is what it is. So it was
That's
amazing.
awesome.
And he spent like 2 months in the hospital, and his husband could be with him in that awful moment.
Incredible.
Yeah, so some interesting stories here that I can tell you about. And I think it's amazing when I see my friends finally speaking their truth when they come out of the closet. As you say, everything evolves amazingly, and the magic starts to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They start attracting, and not only regarding if they're gay or not, they start attracting a lot of different things in their life that are very positive.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were stuck somewhere because they didn't come out of the closet before.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that authenticity. Like the more we can live our truth, the more things are in alignment, the more things move smoothly, I think.
And that's in general.
Yeah.
And I think that's the paradigm that we need to break since COVID. I think since the day one in our lives, but COVID has helped us to really work on breaking up from that paradigm of being what society or family expects us to be, and really start living and speaking our truth, who we really are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm so happy. I think this topic is so amazing, and I think so many people need to hear what we're talking about, because people don't feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
They don't feel supported, and sometimes they feel alienated that probably only them are going through this.
Yeah.
And it's not only them, and it's not only because they're gay, bi, trans, whatever. No, I think every one of us, in one way or another, we are living the fact that we're not living our truth.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole point of my podcast, the Coming Out Chronicles, is I want to share people's stories so that they can get into each other's shoes. And so I mostly interview LGBT folks on their coming out stories, but I have some people in there too that aren't LGBT but have some kind of coming out story, because I want people to understand, like, in some ways it's this universal experience of listening into our truth. And the more that we can hear it in someone else's context, we feel not so alone, we feel understood, and we can be inspired by other people to hear, like, oh, look at all these things that opened up for them on the other side of their closet door. I'm going to keep being brave and step out even further.
Exactly. No, and I think those are inspirational stories because, people come from different paths of life, and we all have a story to tell. And there are times that we need to be brave and break up the rules to be who we are.
Yeah.
Being ecological, of course.
Yes.
That's
No
so
harm.
amazing. No harm. Yeah. I want to share with you guys Nancy's contacts. If you know of people who are not living or speaking the truth, and they're struggling with coming out of the closet, or they came out of the closet but they don't know how to handle it, because sometimes, and I think that happens as well, right, Nancy, that sometimes people come out of the closet but they're like, they just say it, but they don't really, it's not that there's a process, but they don't kind of like embrace it in a way, just thinking just saying it's enough, and not necessarily that. I don't know what you think about it and what has been your experience.
Yeah, and some people come out and then they're just like wild and sleep around to everyone. And it's like, that's also not living your authentic truth necessarily. Like, it's a different kind of masking. And so helping people listen in to, like, who are you? How is it most fulfilling to move forward in your life? That's what I love helping people figure out.
Yeah, because and I don't know, it just pop up, but if it happens to you that when people come out of the closet, there's kind of like this new world. It's like there was an old world when I was, I don't know, living in black and white, and now I'm finally living in color. But and like what you were saying, cutting the hair, changing jobs, like it doesn't align anymore. So like all this process of finding out who you are, it's not only about being gay, it's about, okay, who is me in essence, right?
Yeah, totally.
That's amazing. I just share your contact details for our audience, if they want to contact you. And I want to ask you if you have some final words of advice to our audience today.
Wherever you are, whatever's coming up for you, even if it feels like it's a struggle right now, know that it's coming up for your highest good, and it's coming up to offer you a gift. If you can be patient, look at it, kind of swim around in it, and be like, okay, like, what is the gift in this thing that maybe seems like a struggle? There is a way through it that leads to something really beautiful for you. And so keep going and notice the beauty that's hidden right there in the struggle.
I love your final words, and I completely agree with you. There's always a gift, especially in the problems, in the hardships, and those situations when we don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. They're always a gift to our lives, and something amazing is coming behind that. But it's hard to see when we're in a horrible hole, right?
Yeah.
But
And there's support. Reach out to Stephanie or
and
myself.
there's support. Yeah, we are here for you guys. I truly believe what I like in general is like we are all different, and I love that. But it's very important that you find people that understand you and that support you. And sometimes it's not that family doesn't support us, but sometimes they don't understand us. So we need to start looking for people that understand us first, so we can go back to our family and in their words or in their language explain to them so they can finally understand, so they can support. Because what happens in general is what people don't understand, they get scared. And sometimes I've seen it, and I don't know, Nancy, if you agree with me, but sometimes the fact that our family doesn't accept us or support us, it's because of ignorance. It's because they don't know how it works, so to say. And it's not about how it works. It's about it is as it is, but they don't know what it is actually.
Yeah.
So they don't know how to support us. They as well as we are processing the situation, they are as well in their own way. And especially with our parents, I believe they're another generation. So all the beliefs and the paradigms they have are even more ingrained in them than ours. So we need as well to be a little bit patient with them and just let go, surrender to whatever their process is, but accept that they have a different process than us. And we need to accept it as they need to accept our process. It doesn't matter that they support us or that they're for it or against it. It's just that we're in different processes. And it's like, I live it with my husband. When he had cancer, his process of being a cancer patient was completely different as mine, being the person next to, like the supporter of a cancer patient, because I didn't have the disease, but I was suffering as well. I was in my process, in my emotional process as well. And that's what happens with the families. They will never understand what you are going through because they're not going through the same process. And you will never understand what they are going through, because you're going in a different process, right?
Yeah.
But at the end is to respect that the processes are different, first of all. And second is that people will do things that make sense to them, and they might completely be different for each person. It's like, and it happened to me with my husband, the things he decided to do to cure himself were completely different of what I would have done if I would the cancer, the patient with cancer.
Yeah.
And I needed to respect that.
Yeah.
So, and I think that, goes to, situations when you have family or close friends that are coming out of the closet, or in the audience, I tell you, if you're the one that are struggling in coming out of the closet, get help, because it's a process that you don't know how to handle. And it's not a good process to do it by yourself. It's too long, it hurts too much, and it can be shorter, and it can be a lot of joy if you do it with the right support. Right?
Yeah. Happy to be there for you.
Great. Thanks, Nancy. I'm really, really happy and honored to have you here in my program tonight. And I want to thank the audience. And if you have any questions, you can always write in the chat and we will answer them for you. And you can contact Nancy anytime, or share Nancy's contact or this live. This live is open in Facebook and in YouTube in my channel. So you can share it with anyone who you believe will get a lot of help and insights of this life. And if you're as well saving someone's life, because you never know. And as you were saying, Nancy, previously, there's a very high rate of suicide in the LGTB community. We don't want that anymore. We don't want suicides of any kind. We want people to really speak their truth, and there is help to help them speak their truth. Yeah. So thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really lovely to be here with you.
No, thank you, Nancy. And it was great chatting to you and talking to you guys and everyone. So hope to see you next week, and have a great week. Bye-bye. Bye.